Hello, and welcome to the James Wetherill experience. This is the story of the worst date I've ever been on. Now, this story, once again, similar to the previous video I did on the subject, I'm not going to include any names or places to avoid any embarrassment or hurt. And also, I don't think that this young lady would see this video, but if she did, she probably might know that I'm referring to her, so I apologise in advance. I might apologise at the end as well, we'll see. So anyway, the story of the worst date I've ever been on. So, picture the scene. It was a young woman that I'd met on my mission, as you do, and I'd liked the look of her, you know, nice to talk to. Being a missionary, it was all entirely appropriate and above board, but I did think, and it was towards the later stages of my mission, and I did think, interesting for, you know, when I got home. And then I got home off my mission, and I met her socially, and we remembered each other, and got talking, and then we spent some time at a friend's house. We were both staying with a friend for the weekend, and we got talking, and we were having a really good time, and you know, it was a bit like, well, this could work out with this particular young lady. So I asked her if she'd like to go on a date, and she says yes. So I couldn't drive, so at the time I didn't have my license. I was still learning to drive. So what we did was and she didn't drive as well, so we made arrangements for me to catch the train down and essentially spend the weekend there, because it was an estate I'd served in on my mission, so there were some people that I could see, and there were some people, you know, on the Sunday that I could chat to and things. So I get there on the Friday night. Now, I'm not naming where the town is. It's a bit of a distance from my house. It's about a 3-hour train journey. You have to change trains, and so, you know, it's a bit of a trek. And but I was willing to do it because I quite liked this girl. So I got there, and it was a bit. So you're a bit grubby after being on a train that long. So I meet her at the train station, and because she doesn't drive, and it was a bit late at night, there were no buses. So we walked to her house. Now that must have been about a 45-minute walk. And first we went into the town centre, and so first of all, I wasn't really impressed that I had to walk all that way, and you know, I have like a sleeping bag and things, so I'm carrying all this junk with me, you know, a few days changes of clothes, a suit for church on Sunday, things like that. So, you know, we go into town, and she was on the phone a lot, because her Relief Society were having some kind of crisis, and she was, I think she was secretary of Relief Society. She was on the presidency in any case, so she was on the phone a lot, so she wasn't really talking to me all that much, but that's fine, you know, I appreciate people need time to do their callings and things. And so then we went to a popular chicken shop whose name rhymes with KFC. And you know, it was going okay, and I made some joke about how am I doing passing the boyfriend audition, and she laughed, and it was like, you know, this is, but it was like flirty laughing, and it's like, this is going quite well. So then we get up on the Saturday, and I've had to sleep on the floor in the house that she shared with some other non-members, but you know, some very nice people that she stayed with, and we got up and we got ready and we caught the train, and we caught the train to a town nearby, and we went to see some museums and things that I'd wanted to see whilst I was on my mission down there, but never got the chance. So it was some very interesting thing. I'm a personal fan of museums and art galleries, and you know, a bit of culture, to be able to go see some things, because you know, that's our nation's history and other nations' history, and lots of interesting things to see and do. She wasn't really engaging with me throughout the entire day. It was like she came off like she was quite bored, even though she'd quite happily suggested this is what we should go do, which confused me slightly. And again, throughout the entire day, she was on the phone a lot, essentially ignoring me, which I thought was a bit rude, because yeah, I appreciate you have to do your calling, but the conversations weren't of like an emergency nature. It was stuff that could have waited, in my opinion. But you know, in any case, and then so we wandered around these things for a bit, and I was quite liking it, but she seemed really bored, so we decided to try and do some other things, and we went down the high street, and she still didn't really seem all that excited or interested, and was like, oh well, that's a bit rubbish. And then we went to a Japanese restaurant that I don't really like and I haven't been back to since, because it's a particular issue of me, independent of this date, is it's not much food for quite high prices, which I think is quite ridiculous, but that's another story. So we go, we're in a restaurant I don't really want to be in, and because I'm a gentleman, you know, I paid for it at the end, so I've paid for a meal, I've paid for a meal in a restaurant I didn't want to be in with a girl that doesn't appear to want to be with me, be there with me rather, and so, you know, and she's still on the phone this entire day, and it was quite frustrating. And then we go back to her house, and she was on the phone a lot that night. I managed to see, if you've ever seen The American Office, which I love, it's a hilarious series, she had them all on DVD. Now, just to clarify how much she was ignoring me and how much she was on the phone, I was on her laptop and I managed to see the entire first season of the American version of The Office, and I managed to see at least half of the second season. That's how much I was ignored. That's how much I was left in her room, just with her laptop, just staring at DVDs. So then, it gets to the point, that weekend happened to be the X Factor final that week. Now, I'm a particular fan of the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, and so we're playing, like, it's about to start, and the phone rings again, and she picks it up, and she's sat to the side of me quite loudly, having this conversation. And when I mentioned, you know, I appreciate I'm in your home and this is your laptop and things, but, like, I'm trying to watch this, can you go, you know, somewhere else to have this phone call, or call him back later? To which I got the response, oh, you could just watch it on catch-up. Well, that's not really the point. I thought that was a little rude. So, you know, it's safe to say that this date's not going incredible. It's not going anything like I thought it would previously, having interacted with this young lady. And so then this phone call ends, X Factor final ends, and it's getting late. And she had served a mission, and she'd served a mission in a French-speaking country. And so we were messing around playing with Google Translate, because anybody who speaks foreign languages fluently knows Google Translate isn't maybe the greatest translation service. It misses context and grammar and stuff sometimes. But so we were having a bit of a laugh with this Google Translate. And in it, I asked her to be, I either said, can I be your boyfriend, or I said, will you be my girlfriend, in French. And, you know, it was a bit semi-serious, and it was a bit, you know, it was a bit flirty, and she burst out laughing and went silent for about 10 minutes. At which point I went silent for about 10 minutes, like, that should have at least got a polite, you know, no or something, like, don't burst out laughing in my face. And then she kind of looked at me, and I kind of looked at her, and she was like, oh my goodness, oh, I'm so sorry for laughing, and like proceeded to apologise, and it was like, yeah, well, this is over. But going back to what I'd said previously, I couldn't drive, so I couldn't escape, and it was in a city 3 hours train ride from home. So then we get up on the Sunday, and we had to catch a bus to church, which, you know, fair enough, but we had to catch a bus, and that bus ride was really awkward because we were both quite quiet, like, I think both of us had figured out this wasn't going to go anywhere. So we go to church, and it was really awkward because, like a good ward should, a lot of people came up to me and they were like, oh, where are you from? What's your name? Who are you visiting? So I had to tell her I'm visiting her, and it was like, oh, and it was like, no. And so, you know, their ward was very lovely and very welcoming, and then afterwards we went to go hang out with some YSA from the stake, and that I'd met on my mission and got on really well with, and these are very nice people. So we're in this other people's home, and she goes off with this boy who was her best friend, and like as best friend they were really coupley, and it was really weird. And so what it turned out was these museums and things that we'd been to. Oh, again, she was ignoring me, and she'd gone off with this boy, and they were like washing dishes that took about 2 hours to do, like laughing and joking like a couple. It was really like, hello, just come to visit you from out of town. But anyway, and like it came out that we'd been to museums together that Saturday, that her and this boy had basically been on a friend date about 3 weeks previous. So the reason she wasn't interested is because she'd already been to see all this stuff that month, and at no point had told me this was the case. So I'm in a city that I don't want to be in, I can't escape from it, with a girl it's going nowhere, that's ignored me all weekend, and is now like really weirdly flirty banter with this friend of hers. So, and then at the end, she seemed really surprised that I was like, Inserting seamless link in 5, 4, 3. Yeah, she seemed really surprised that it was like, okay, it's getting late, I'm going to have to go. And then we get to the train station, like a friend of hers had very kindly dropped me off there. We get to the train station and she gave me this massive hug, like, she was like, oh, so thank you so much for coming, it's been really great, you know, like we'd had the best date ever. And it was a bit like, okay, bye. So I get on the train and it's like a 3-hour train journey home. And so the whole entire time thinking like, what on earth has gone on here? Because I'm sure about 75% of the problem of what went wrong on this date was her. Correct me if I'm wrong. If from what I've told you there's some I was doing wrong or I could have done better, please let me know, because to this day I'm still a bit of at a loss. But the things we learned from this was it was a lot of money and time wasted essentially. But for what we learned from this was I got to the point where it knocked me back a little bit, because it was a bit lost as to what the next step was. So I decided from there, it was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it with these lovely, very pretty, very funny, very clever young women in the YSA program that I'm friends with. And it's like, so I just went on I think rampage might not be the word I'm looking for, but essentially I went on a rampage. I asked a lot of very lovely, very pretty, very funny, smart young women out from the YSA program, and I do not regret that for a second, because I went on some very lovely dates, some very nice places with some very wonderful young women. Now, they didn't work out for various reasons. Some of them were going on missions, good choice. There was one young lady that I couldn't really date much because she was embarking on a pop career in America, true story. But you know, and it all led to and I also learnt to drive after that, because I made the decision that I was never going to spend like a 3-day weekend with a young woman again, because of the potential of it bombing and not being able to escape. The exception to that rule being the woman I'm going to marry, my lovely fiancée Jade, who I love very much, because we spent a fortnight together over Christmas, and you know, so she's the exception to that rule. But just for dates, just the odd date here and there, I decided not to bother. I got my driver's license so I can leave, pick the young woman up on a Saturday, go do some lovely things, drop them off on a Saturday night, make arrangements to see them again or not, depending on how both of us feel at the end. So that was, yeah, it was a bit of a crazy time. So we saw her at a couple of dances after that, and it was like, oh hi, and I was like, oh hi, and she was like, you know, very nice, very friendly, and it was just, yeah, it was a bit of a letdown, because what I got wasn't what I thought I was going for. I thought I was going for something that was going to work out a lot better than that, but never mind. You know, we live, we learn, and we move on. So yeah, so that's, in conclusion, is the story of the worst date I've ever been on. So yeah, thank you for watching to me vent, essentially. So I'd like to dedicate this video to Ollie Lubbock once again, who loves to hear this story and asks me to tell it every time I see him, and also Jared Dan, who heard it, was one of the bunch of lads that heard the story for the first time in Bristol Convention 2013. So thank you very much for watching today and taking part in the James Wetherill experience. I ask that you, if you like what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, helps the channel out, and if you want to see more stuff that I do, because I've got a couple more videos coming, stay tuned for some more awesomeness that's on its way. Thank you very much for taking part today. Love your faces!